All right, here we are with card number 3 using the Hello Harvest bundle. So you're going to find in your kit of supplies, if you purchased it, the Cajun Craze card base, 5.5 by 8.5. A layer of white for the inside, 4 by 5.25. Get a scrap out of the white that was provided in the front of your kits. And then you're going to find a 4 by 5.25 inch layer of black, and you're going to cut 2 of these thicker pumpkins and 1 of these skinny pumpkins. So you can see that I just laid it, and I obviously could have gone closer to this edge than I did. So you can get the 3 of those out of the center of this layer of black. And then we're going to cover that with a piece of designer series paper that you're going to cut from your package of rustic harvest paper, and this is going to be cut to 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So we've got our pumpkins. You're also going to take the large pumpkin image and stamp it in Cajun Craze on your this pattern of the designer series paper, and then crop it out with the coordinating die. And then you're going to need a little partial. Now, I could have done this 2 ways. I could have stamped it first and then die cut it. I chose to die cut it first, and then I'm going to try to stamp it. So we'll see how well I do. If I don't do very well, then we will stamp it and die cut it. So I'm going to bring in my Cajun Craze ink. And I've got my stamp here. I'm going to ink that up, and you only need a partial because we're going to add it to the inside of the card with the other, with a strip of designer series paper. So let's see what we can do here. Just give it a shot and see what happens. I think that's good enough. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so then on our layer of white, you're going to need to not make a mess on it. So I'm going to flip that over. And we're going to add, this is a little 1/2 inch strip of that same designer series paper. And I'm just going to add this to the bottom. Okay. So this one's, I think I said this was a 1/2 by 4. If I didn't, it's a 1/2 by 4. And we'll just get that down there. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of glue to the back of my partial pumpkin. And I'm going to just kind of tuck it underneath that strip, just so it kind of looks like, you know, we might have a full pumpkin there, but because our paper's in the way. So that's why you don't need a full pumpkin on that inside layer. So now we can go ahead and add this to the inside of the card. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to set aside these. Now this larger pumpkin here, this full pumpkin, I did take my dark soft suede Stampin' Blend and I did color in my stem of that. Okay. Then you're also going to need to take these 2 little tendrils dies and then the white glimmer paper that was included in your box full of fun. You're going to need to cut out a couple of these little tendrils out of that sparkly, I hope the camera's picking that up because it is so fun, this sparkly white paper. Okay, so we're going to set all these things aside for the moment, and we're going to work on our big piece of designer series paper. Now, what I thought might be kind of fun is there are already some little mossy meadow dots that are already on the paper. Well, I thought it might be kind of fun if we added some puffy white dots. So I've got our Snowfall Accents puff paint that came in the kit for you, and then I have my stylus end for my take your pick tool, and so I'm going to add my stylus end into the tool and lock it into place. I've got the small end here, and I'm going to shake up my puff paint gently, and I'm going to be using a silicone craft sheet, and I am going to add a little bit of this puff paint to my silicone craft sheet here. Doing it that way is going to help me. Now, I could just take the paint and I just could put dots all over on this, but the chances of me making a mess are probably pretty good. So I am going to dip my stylus into the paint, and then I am going to come over here to the paper, and I'm going to add some dots of the paint. And then, of course, the paint is designed to be heated up with your heat tool, and then it will puff. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to add our dots all around. Now, of course, you don't need the center. I didn't even need to probably do those. And that's because we're going to be covering up the middle with our focal point here. So I'm just adding some random dots here. So just go ahead and put them wherever you think you need them. And if you need a little more, if you need a bigger puff, then just go ahead and dot the tool down there one more time. All right, I think that's probably good. So then I'm just going to get a tissue and I'm just going to wipe off the end of my stylus. And then I'm just going to wipe up that excess puff paint that is on my silicone mat. Now I'm going to bring in my heat tool. And I'm going to heat these little puffs, the little dots of puff paint, and watch them puff up. So I'm going to bring in the little tweezers from the embossing kit that's in the holiday catalog, so I can kind of hold that up. I'm going to turn my tool on, and then we're going to watch these little dots puff. See that one starting? Okay. So now if I bring this up, you can see the dimension that that little bit of puff paint is going to give our background, which is so cool. Now, if you have a Wink of Stella pen, you can bring it in and add a little bit of Wink of Stella to all of these little dots. If you don't, it's totally fine. I just felt that adding a little bit of Wink of Stella would just be kind of fun. Just add a little bit more sparkle. And so I'm just going to color my little puffy spots here. I got a little bit carried away over here, so I'm going to try to wipe some of that off. And if we can't get it off, well, then we're just going to have some extra sparkle there, aren't we? Okay, so we have our Wink of Stella on there now. So now not only do we have puffy dots, we have puffy sparkly dots. So that just adds a tiny little bit of fun to our project. All right, so I'm going to bring my little scrap of white in here while my Wink of Stella is drying, and I'm going to bring in the large sentiment piece here with the big banner. I'm going to stamp that in Mossy Meadow ink. And then I'm going to run over to my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine and I'm going to crop it out with the coordinating die, and I'll be right back. All right, we have everything we need now. So I'm going to bring my black layer over here and I'm going to add some glue to it where my designer series paper is going to lay, and then I'm going to try to add, you know, some on the inside here a little bit. And we'll just have a very slight border around our designer series paper. Okay, got that all pressed into place. And then we'll go ahead and add it to the front of the card. Centering that. Okay, so we're going to bring in the designer series paper pumpkin and we're going to add it to these layers of black. We're going to kind of try to just make a layer around or underneath it. Just so we can say that our pumpkin is a little bit bigger. So we'll just add these two pieces back there. And then our final one, we're going to just stick right down the middle and have it come up just right above the stem. Okay, and then we're going to add that to the middle of the card here. Add our sentiment piece right across the middle of all of this. Okay, and then our little tendrils, I'm going to add just a teeny tiny bit of glue back here on these little guys. And I'm just going to tuck them under the pumpkin. There we go. Just add a little bit of fun that way, and then we'll go ahead and add this whole piece with some dimensionals. I feel like we can get away with 3. And then we're going to set that right in the center of everything. Okay. And then the last thing I need to do is to see if any of our gems are going to work on this card. Now, I'm not positive they will, but I think that these little pale papaya ones might, since they're kind of somewhat of a shade of the Cajun Craze. Find my take your pick tool here. I'm going to go ahead and replace my tip that I use most often, which is the little pointy end there. And let me just pull one of these off and just sort of see if I did add it somewhere on here, is it going to be odd? And you know what? I don't think so. I think it's going to look pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and, whoops, I didn't pick that one up. Add a couple right down there at the bottom, and then we'll add a single one up here at the top if I can get a hold of it. Just like that. So then we'll have a little bit of bling on there. So how fun is that? And now I did want to try something. There are these little kind of fleur-de-lis stamps in this set. And I thought maybe I could stamp one up here in the corner. So here is one. And I'm going to try to do that with some Mossy Meadow ink. What did I do with it? And we'll just sort of see how this comes out. So I'm going to actually bring in my scrap paper first and pretend that this is the corner of my paper and just try to see, you know, if I can get it, is it going to look right? Yeah, I think that'll look pretty good. There we go. How fun is that? So there we have card number 3, and now we will move on to our final card, which is a very simple but beautiful card.